good evening. Hope you're having a good weekend here. Figured we'd use a drone here to get some of the sky footage. This is looking off kind of to the south, and we see some of the tropical air flowing northward. Pretty cool look at the sky there, and what's causing that? Let's take a look at the charts. We have a frontal system in the area, and you can see north and east Texas is under southerly flow here. We've got a couple of fronts. I'm not sure if I would call that weaker. Yeah, that's probably the stronger front up here in Arkansas. And then we have a more tropical boundary down around the Houston and Beaumont area. And now look at the isentropic charts, and you'll kind of see how all this gets put together. This is the warm air advection wing of that frontal system. And then back over here we have the cold air advection zone right there. Okay, so we can see that the main low is up there around Oklahoma City, extending down to the hill country. So let's check out what that looks like aloft. This is the isentropic charts, and it looks kind of like a mess here, but what we want to focus on here is the black lines. Okay. So let's start out with this one here. This is the 285 Kelvin isentropic chart. So looking at the black lines, we can see what passes through Texas here. That's going to be around 950 millibars. All right. So 950 millibars. Some of you may know what that is. Some of you may not. Let me bring up a SKU-T. That'll really help a lot if you can refer back to a SKU-T when you're not really familiar with this kind of thing here. So let me get this set up here. Okay. Then we'll bring up Fort Worth. So where is that 950 on this chart? We can see over here on the left side, 950, that's going to be pretty close to the ground. That's only about maybe 500 meters up, maybe about 1,500 feet. So this is going to be pretty close to the ground here. This is where that level is that we're considering. So across North Texas, we can take that and then look at the wind being plotted here, and we can see that at that height, there's winds coming out of the north in the Panhandle and out of the south in East Texas. So this is part of that warm air advection zone. This is kind of like the bottom part of the air mass. And if we go up to higher Kelvin values, the black lines will go higher and higher. The values will drop. And then we get up to about, let's stop here at about 775. Okay, so we can refer back to that SKU-T. 775 is going to be right over here, about maybe 2,000 meters, about 6,000 feet. So that's probably going to be up in the cloud layer. And as you can see, we still have southerly flow in that area. And there's also a green overlay indicating humid air. So this is kind of helping us build a three-dimensional picture of what's happening. And as we go up higher and higher, in fact, I'll just give you the top chart here. This is up at about 550 millibars, which is about 17,000 feet. And we start picking up more of a westerly flow at that level. Now let me go back to those mid-level charts. With that southerly flow, you can see that we're blowing air from lower isentropic values to higher altitudes up in this area, because the values are lower. There's 850 there, there's 800. That's going to be up at about 5,000 to 6,000 feet, whereas down on the coast, we've got 975 to 1,000, which is close to sea level. So any air that's blowing from south to north across Texas and Oklahoma, that's going to be rising. So isentropic lift, that's going to be a function of the shape of the isentropic surfaces in black and the wind in blue. And once we have that, then we look at the green, which is going to be our relative humidity. The closer we are to 100% relative humidity, the more likely we're going to have clouds and precipitation. And indeed, we do have very humid air across Texas. And only when we get up to the mid parts of the troposphere does that moisture start thinning out. So this is mostly a lower mid-level system here. And it looks like the strongest lift, it's probably up at about 3,000 to 4,000 feet there. And that's where we were seeing cloud bases earlier. So that's kind of a quick look at how to use the isentropic charts. And the only thing that I didn't show you on here was how to use the mixing ratio, and that's these green lines here, these very bright green lines. And that's just a measure of the moisture richness. So the higher that is, the higher the dew points. So down near the Gulf, dew points are a lot higher at this particular level. All right, so that's a look at the isentropic chart, and as a result, we do have showers and thunderstorms. Let me bring that up a little bit higher. There we go. So a few convective cells from Texarkana down to Waco and down around Marlin and Buffalo. And there's a little bit of thunder out there. A little bit out ahead of it in Louisiana. And as you go north, we get into more of the stratiform precip up in Minnesota and... No, try that again. Illinois and Missouri. All right, so doing the usual frontal analysis, this is the thickness and isobars. So it looks a lot less dynamic than what we saw last week with that big surge of cold air coming out of Canada. And we do still have a cold surge in effect, but it is weaker than what we've had. Here's the leading edge of the cold surge coming out of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. The cold air advection is this area right here. It's most concentrated right around here, and that's where we formed boxes between the blue and the black. Like here, there's a box. There's a box, and since we're bringing this north to south, and there's cold air up to the north, that's cold air advection. And we can have boxes where we have warm air advection, and that's an example right there. That's warm air advection. It forms very small boxes. The smaller the boxes, the stronger the advection. And since this is coming south to north, being on the eastern side of that low pressure area, that's bringing warm air northward across Quebec and Ontario. Normally, warm air advection is going to be associated with isentropic lift. And not surprisingly, we've got showers there in Ontario and Quebec. And where we have cold air advection, we tend to get sinking motion. So naturally, this zone in Saskatchewan and Alberta is appearing somewhat dry this evening. And we can see a little bit of a box there in Louisiana and Arkansas. There's one box. Here's another box. Here's another one. And then off to the left, we've got a trough in this area. So this is showing the warm air advection out ahead of that cold front with the associated precip and storms in that area. All right, taking a look at the air masses, we've got the old polar air mass coming off into the East Coast right there, represented by this big high-pressure area centered over the Carolinas, and that's a 1033, 1034 millibar high. And then we have our new cold surge. It's not indicated by high pressure until you get way up in the Arctic, like way up in this region up here. But we do have a pressure gradient coming in from the north. So we're only seeing like the nose of the cold air mass kind of right in this area right there. The bulk of the Arctic air is well up to the north. And then offshore we've got a couple Pacific systems. There's one right there. And we may even have one a little bit further south down in this area here. So that's giving a little bit of precip there to the northwest coast and Oregon and off of California there. Okay, we'll move on and take a look at the satellite photo. And there's our picture this evening showing showers and thunderstorms across the Mississippi River Valley all the way back to Texas and Oklahoma. And everything is a lot more progressive, a lot more west to east this evening. And we're showing a bit of Pineapple Express feed, a bit of a plume of moisture coming up from the subtropical regions right there. So that's starting to enter the picture there in California. And there's another outgoing system out over the Atlantic. Okay, let me take a look at the chat here. We've got Ron Chalfant there in Southern California, hoping for a good rain tomorrow and Tuesday. Fun with Tech is here, raining in Missouri. Burl H is also here, Panda Lover 421, warming up in Michigan with 29. D.S. Kenny hoping for a winter in Medford, Oregon. Megan John got a heat wave there now that it's about freezing in Minnesota. Good, good. Greg Schultz also joining us in southern Wisconsin, taking spotter reports of freezing rain and drizzle. So I'm looking for mixed precip there in Indiana. David Moore seeing some rain in the Metroplex, lightning to the east. Jason Boggs in the Texas Panhandle right around here. Looking clear there, but he's got 76 for a high on Tuesday. Megan John looking for school tomorrow, weather discussion and climate dynamics. David Morris got just enough to get the ground wet in Knox County. Got Electric Dog here, Jason Boggs saying, yes, we need more. Megan John noting this saturated sounding, and let's see, we got Jeff Krob. David Moore saying the winter wheat is not coming up at all. Ryan Toomey's in Florida joining us. David Moore hoping to catch the webcast. Jason Boggs here. Ryan Toomey, 68. Greg Schultz with that freezing precip there. And Ryan Toomey saying we're expecting a hard rain in Florida after midnight with all-day rain on Monday. Airline flights catching up and resuming once again from the northeast. And Fred Reamer, 36 in Grand Forks. That's a huge warm-up for sure there. Fred Reamer teaching aviation meteorology. Very good. All right, since we're getting into kind of a zonal flow and we've got kind of a southerly component, see that southerly component showing in a lot of places around the U.S., this is a good time to look at the water vapor imagery. And we've got kind of a messy pattern. We've got moisture coming into California. I may have to back this up a little bit. Let me try to get that. Let's see here. We'll look at a full disk image. And we're going to pick up the Goes West satellite. And this is kind of what the raw data looks like before we use the enhancement curves. Let me see if I can zoom that out even more. I'm going to go to the full disk image. Okay, WV2. And let's try animating that. And that kind of shows you just how southerly the moisture feed is coming from right there. There it is, showing up just off the coast of California. So this is coming from about 10 to 20 degrees latitude there. And just behind that, you can see we've got a low pressure system. We've got indications of jet stream activity right there. And looks like a second jet perhaps a little bit further west there, and another storm system lurking south of the Aleutian Islands. This is the 925 millibar chart. This is radiosonde observations taken just 2 hours ago here. And this shows you we do have a little bit of a low-level jet established from the Gulf all the way up to Minnesota there. Showing 40 knots there at Little Rock and 35 at Shreveport, 40 at New Orleans, and 40 at Lincoln. So if we had probably a little bit more moisture, a little bit more instability, we would be able to support some severe weather. But obviously we don't have much of that tonight. And then further to the west we can see the upper level cold front coming in. And we can probably pick up a little bit of the upper level warm front. And to me, that looks like it is right there. So that's probably how I would analyze that. And then north of that, we would have an upper level occluded front. Okay, so that's how we would analyze that. We would see a similar picture up at 850. And then up at 500, we're going to find the frontal surfaces sloping up and back towards the cold air. So we'll find that a little bit more northwest for that cold front. And possibly, typically we have the warm front a little bit further north, but in this case, I don't see a whole lot of slope there. That's what it looks like to me. So perhaps the low-level front is a little bit further south. This is kind of where we have to kind of like analyze things and build up a 3D picture there. And then when we get up to 500 millibars, we've got the dynamics. And this shows you where our weather is coming from tonight. We got a shortwave across Texas right there. It's a little more compact with that frame right there. You can see the cyclonic vorticity right there from Fort Worth down to about Junction, Texas. And ahead of that, we have upper level lift. Normally ahead of these short waves, we expect to find upper level lift there, and then behind it, we expect to find subsidence back there. To satisfy the equations of upward and downward motion, we have to have this kind of motion to compensate there for the cyclonic vorticity advection and on either side of that short wave there. So you can see that this short wave is moving gradually off towards the Gulf of Mexico, and by tomorrow it's going to be pretty far out in the Gulf, kind of approaching Florida there, but it looks a little less compact and it may be falling apart there. Looks like it regenerates a little bit, maybe towards Tuesday. I don't know, it doesn't look too organized there, but it does show up there in Florida, it appears on Tuesday. So that's probably when we're going to be looking for some rain coming in there. And then you can see a big slug of upper energy coming through the Four Corners area. So this is coming through Rancho Alfonso area in the LA region on Tuesday. So it looks like kind of a unsettled day if you're flying into Los Angeles or San Diego. There could be some problems there during the day on Tuesday. And then you can see that wave move across the southern Rockies during the day on Wednesday. And then it emerges into the plains later on Wednesday into Thursday. So this could be a period when we see some weather there in Texas and Oklahoma. So there's the shortwave, and then ahead of that we've got our upper level lift. And this is where we see destabilization and cap removal and cyclogenesis all in this area here. So that's going to be later on Wednesday according to the NAM model here. Okay, so I think at this point we'll go ahead and look at the forecast. And I think what we'll do is we'll start out with the NAM here. We'll look at the Gulf. And we'll see those showers moving out of Arkansas and Louisiana there overnight. A little bit of development in the New Orleans area. And then we kind of see that following the track of the shortwave into the central Gulf. And then it appears it also kind of dissipates there on Tuesday. A few showers get going in Florida there, and then we're looking for that wave to come out maybe sometime on Tuesday or Wednesday, probably Tuesday there. And yeah, a few showers there for the Miami area. Okay, then let's look at the GFS. So here comes that frontal system through Texas right there. And the main track of that is toward the Gulf there. And then kind of a quiet day for the central U.S. We've got lee side troughing from Colorado up to Wyoming and Montana. Southerly flow starting to take effect on the high plains there, and things get very stormy there around California. And it appears it goes downhill later on Monday and into Tuesday. So there's our storm system coming into California. So let's see, I'm not too sure where to put that warm front. I'm probably going to go something like that. And then you can see it making landfall there. And then coming through the deserts later on Tuesday and into Vegas and Phoenix Tuesday night there. And then it crosses the Rockies, and then we see it emerge into the plains on Wednesday. We don't have a good flow up from the Gulf there in Texas. You can see that Wednesday morning the Gulf is not really open. It's kind of weakly open. Most of the pressure gradient is concentrated in this area, so that means dry southwesterly flow into Texas. So moisture is going to be a problem, and that's also going to limit the development of the low pressure area a bit, because we're kind of missing out on latent heat there. So there's our system coming in on Thursday through Texas. Looks like snow in Minneapolis and Des Moines and the UP of Michigan. And then a new low develops around Arkansas there. There's that northerly system there. And behind it, 1035 millibar high coming in from Canada. And then things look unsettled in the northwest. Cyclogenesis there in Washington and British Columbia. So it looks like some stuff is going on in that region too. Meanwhile, out east, looks like a winter weather system through Ohio and Indiana on Saturday. 1045 millibar high coming in. And that pushes in through Texas, so kind of a cool weekend for the central and southern U.S. And then a little bit of a storm system up in the northeast there. But it appears it's going to be liquid from Boston down to New York and Washington, and then up north, upstate New York and New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. They're going to get the winter weather there, it appears. And this is going to be definitely a warmer system. Things quiet down for the 14th, 15th, 16th. Here comes another outbreak for Tuesday the 16th. And let's see, the next development is up in the northwest U.S. right there. So that'll reemerge into the northern plains right there. And then it looks like California gets going once again for the 19th. And there it is, emerging into the central U.S. on the 20th. Looks like the dry line will be active. GFS hinting a little bit of shower activity there in east Oklahoma, and looks a little bit more like a squall line perhaps there on the 20th, Saturday the 20th there. But this is actually getting pretty far out there. So anyway, yeah, it looks stormy, and we can see, looking at the red and blue, we've got a very active southern stream right here. So it looks like a continuation of kind of a stormy pattern through the mid and through from about the second to third week of January here. Let's see if we can get a look at that southern stream here. Looks like I don't have any frames loaded here for some reason. Okay, guess we can't look at that there, but maybe I'll just hit reload. Let me do that real quick. Okay, so yeah, a lot of weather over the next week or two, and the exact forecast really depends on where you are. So that's a good opportunity for you to go into the charts and try to predict for your own area there. I'm not going to be able to do everybody's location there, but the data is on sites like pivotalweather.com and incep.noaa.gov. Ryan Toomey's looking for temperatures there in the mid-70s and low 80s in Florida. Red and purple. So I'm asking about red and purple. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, yeah, Megan John, I think he's answering there. I was kind of confused which chart we were looking at. Yeah. I wanted to defer to the thunder there. Let you guys listen to that. I'm sure that's kind of an unusual sound to those of you up in the North U.S. where it was like 0 in New York yesterday. Okay, so here's that southern stream. Looks like 1 bit of energy coming through on the 10th. Some northwesterly flow in behind that, and then it's actually towards the very end. Yeah, it gets really meridional here for the 16th. And there's where we get active there towards the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So there'll probably be a chance of some severe weather with that kind of pattern, and we're just going to have to wait and see since that's 384 hours out there. Okay, that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you watching the webcast, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.